So she would get this like gigs where like men would like to get by strap-ons. It was some pretty sick stuff, but she always found these men. So one day she comes up to me and she goes, hey, I met this really, really rich guy. He's really rich. He's very powerful. He lives in Manhattan. He likes to get massaged by young girls. I met Jeffrey Epstein, and then he was naked at that point, and I was a little bit like, oh, I wasn't expecting this. I just turned 14. The FBI went looking for him in 2008. When the FBI came, I go down the stairs. They're like, are you Marina Lacerda? I'm like, yes, I am. They show me their badges and they're like, we want to talk to you about Jeffrey Epstein.
FBI, open up! The FBI swarming a Miami house and taking a man into custody.
So say goodnight to the bad guy.
The agency says the 28-year-old was picked up at the
Marina, welcome to Honor Among Thieves.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for accepting my invitation.
Of course.
You know what's nuts? You want to see how the world like kind of right? So I don't really like talking about the Epstein subject just because, not because it's not important. It's very important, and I think it's like a foundational thing in this country specifically that the truth comes out and the people get punished. I believe in all that, but I don't like clout chasers, and I don't like fads. I base my channel on evergreen content that'll perform today, tomorrow, next year. So I've stayed away from it, but it's gotten so big to the point where I was like, all right, I have to talk about this at some point, right?
Yeah.
And then mentally I was like, all right, but I don't just want to talk about this. I want to talk to somebody who is actually like knee deep in this, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then as I was thinking that, I scrolled and I found you. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, and we're right here, right in Florida. So
Coral
it's
Springs.
Like,
You're like an hour from Miami and 30 minutes from the studio. So it's,
exactly, very, very close.
when you said
Very close.
Oakland, I was like, oh, she's in California.
No,
I was like, no, Oakland Park, Florida.
No.
Oh, okay.
no, Parkland,
Parkland, I'm sorry.
Parkland,
Yeah,
close,
close.
Oakland. Yeah,
Oakland Park is right there. Yeah, Parkland.
yeah, Parkland. But yeah, we're right here, you know. But it's hard to stay away from the news. I think that's all people talk about now. I mean, it kind of died out a little bit with the whole.
Nah, it's not going anywhere. It's still all over the internet. Anytime there's a little bit of new updates, everybody plaster, which is good.
Yeah.
Because you don't want that. Like at the end of the day, I'm a firm believer in that. The people who are involved in that all need to. I mean, I have extreme beliefs. We'll save that for later. But yeah, like it's important to stay relevant. But just a lot of people that are in that niche aren't in it for the right reasons. You know.
Yeah. Well, you know, it's sad to say, you know, when you involve, there's politics involved, you start to really understand that everyone just wants to do what benefits, for their party. And you start to understand that you get to a point where in the beginning, I was like, oh, okay, like this is really like becoming political and like we're becoming a political tool. And then halfway through, I was like, oh my God, like one side does care about us. They really, really do. And they want the best for us. And they're willing to do anything to get, you know, our word and our voice out there. And now I've come to the point where I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, this is all political. It's all political. Yeah, it's all political. So, you know, but it's good because every survivor does, you know, something different. We all work together when we are together, and when we are separate, everyone has their own, you know, they have their own thing going on. You got a girl that's doing her own app, then you got other girls, you know, writing books. So everyone does something different.
I was in contact with Lisa
Phillips?
Yes.
Yes.
I don't know where she's based out of, but she's
in LA.
She was honestly like, listen, I'm like, I would love to, but I'm like super busy. And I'm like, listen, I get it. She is. I get it.
And she's all the way in LA. So I feel like she's in that middle of.
Do you guys all talk to each other?
Yeah, I was just talking to her yesterday.
That's cool.
I needed a number for something. And, you know, she's, like I said, she's right there in LA. She's in the middle of like, you know, where she needs to be. And I just reached out to her. We actually were talking about one of the interviews that we did yesterday is going for Emmy Award.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah.
That's
so
good.
she actually told me that. So
cool.
that was pretty cool. And, you know, she's great, though. She's great. She's been through a lot, though.
I'm heavily involved in media. I mean, obviously, the podcast, right? But the podcast is more kind of like a catalyst for my other ideas.
Right.
So I'll talk to you about some stuff after. Anyway, your story is borderline unbelievable. to say the least. I couldn't even. I started scrolling in your page, and I was just like I'm not a doom scroller at all, but I just couldn't. I
Yeah.
couldn't stop looking.
I feel like there's a lot of my page from September till now. Such a short time.
Yeah.
I feel like there's like a lot that has happened though, which is somewhat good and then somewhat bad, I feel like, right? Yeah.
All right, so let's start at the very beginning. You're originally from Brazil.
Yes, I am. I'm from Brazil, born and raised until I was 8 years old.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
What are your earliest memories of Brazil?
Oh, I had great memories in Brazil. I feel like when I talk about, my childhood and I see the comments, people are like, you had a horrible childhood. I did after I arrived to America, but, being in Brazil and I feel like being around my family was really one of the best memories I could have. I was always surrounded by, my uncles, my aunt, my cousins. I really, only have the best memories with my friends, and growing up in Brazil, I don't know, because in Brazil, everyone's like, either you're rich or you're poor, or that you have that middle class that's really, really struggling. But thankfully, I had, my uncle who always looked out for me and, always, paid for my ballet classes. He always brought me presents from America when he used to come here. So I was really blessed with that. And I was able to share my presence with my friends who were very, very poor. So growing up in Brazil, when we played soccer, we didn't have sneakers. We used to play barefoot, and I think it was one of the best things that I think I could say now, having a daughter and being so like, oh my God, if she's in the trampoline, I'm like, be careful, don't do this, don't do that. Before it was just like, yeah, like if you get hurt, we'll just have to go to the hospital, So it was really good. And I did have a good childhood, even though I had, some bad moments when I came, to New York. I still really somewhat was still a happy kind of child. It's hard to explain.
I've noticed that poor kids we were happy. Like all of us were happy. I don't know what it is about being poor and having nothing, that it was just, that's the magic of being a kid, right? You don't need anything to be happy.
I feel the same way. I feel like sometimes when I look at kids and even my daughter, it's like there's too much and then there's nothing to do. We have a pool, we have a trampoline. She has a whole huge yard, we have a basketball. And it's still like her friends come over and they're like, I have to take the phone away because it gets so bad. I feel like all they want to do is be on that freaking phone. Yeah. But I can't say anything because I've been also on the phone a lot lately with everything going on. So, but it's a whole different generation.
For sure.
Mm-hmm.
Very different.
Yeah.
My family's from Cuba, so the stuff the kids do over there is nuts. Like it'll be pouring rain and they'll look for like a piece of wood, like just a piece of wood in a trash pile somewhere, and they'll use it as like a surfboard to throw themselves down the street, and they're having a ball.
The best time ever.
I was standing on the balcony of my aunt's house in a part of Havana called Marianao, and she lives on like the 7th or 8th floor. Mind you, there's no elevator, so you have to
walk down, up and down.
So I'm standing on the balcony, I'm watching these kids, and I'm like, man, that's awesome. Like they don't need anything,
Yeah, exactly. And those are the best things when you have to make. You have to use what you have to make the best out of it, sure. And that's, I feel like, we turned out just fine. I'm worried for this generation though.
For sure.
Yeah, for sure.
So it sounds like you had a good childhood, good memories. What made your family want to move to America?
Well, my mom, growing up in Brazil, like I said, we were middle class, struggling. Really, what helped out was my uncle and my grandmother and just family, But my mom separated or divorced my father. I guess he gambled a lot and, lost, all his money. He's also 25 years older than my mother. So, and with 4 of the kids. So, my mom divorced him. And this is me, like, just barely remembering, like, kind of like, how it was growing up. And she worked, and I always had a babysitter or I always stayed with family. And then at one point she was just like, I need to go to America. She used to see my uncle going to America, to New York a lot. And she was like, I need to go there, just have a better life, for us. So she left when I was 7. I stayed away from her for a year. And then my uncle, when I went to New York, I wasn't supposed to stay. My father only signed for me to go visit my mom. But when I got to New York, my mom was like, "You're staying with me." And at that time, she had met her boyfriend, which became my stepfather. And I was just like, yeah, like as long as I'm with you, you know, I was so attached to my mom, and like this, I don't know, this crazy, like, I don't know, like I just, like when she left, I literally started being scared of the dark. Like at a certain age, I was like scared of death. I started being scared of the dark. And I don't know if it was just that it was just us being separated, the separation anxiety, whatever it's called, you know. And then when I got, you know, to New York and I just saw her, I was like, wow, like this is all I want to do is like, I just want to be with my mom, you know? So when my mom told my uncle that I was staying, they like got into like a physical altercation because he did not want me to stay. He just did not want me to stay. I don't know why. I don't know if he didn't trust her or if he just had like a bad vibe off of my stepfather. But I ended up staying. And my mom had a studio in Astoria on top of King's Deli, which is no longer there because I mentioned it and somebody threw in the comment, they're like, King's Deli is not there anymore. But there is a deli there. So we moved there. And when I moved there, my mom was working as a cleaning lady in an office, and my stepfather was a driver, like an illegal driver. He used to pick up people from the airport, or like people knew like there was somebody coming in, they would tell him, hey, listen, we have a job. So my mom's schedule was pretty set. It was like when I used to get out of school, she was no longer home and she used to work till late at night. So I kind of used to just have to feed myself dinner. Like at 8 years old, I was living on Steinway Street and it was pretty busy at that time. And I was really scared, like to be alone because I was only 8 years old in a whole different country. And my stepfather used to come home at, you know, different times because he had no schedule. And I can't remember, you know, how long it took, but after a little while, he started to put on porn on the TV. And I didn't know anything. And he used to lay me down on his lap and he used to cover me with like a blanket, my face. And, you know, being 8, I mean, I feel like as a 37-year-old, if you tell me don't look, I think the first thing I will do is look, right? Because that's like just, it's what we do. And I just started peeking through this cloth and just seeing this blanket, just seeing like what was happening. And I was very confused. Remember being very confused at what I was looking at. And then slowly, you know, the blanket came off, and then slowly he just started doing everything that was being done in the porn to me. I was 8 years old, and I really had no idea that this was, and, you know, I just didn't know what was happening. I really was completely clueless. And it went on for a really long time. My stepfather got my mom pregnant. And then we moved out of that studio and we moved into a 4-bedroom. And I must have been maybe 10, 9.5. I can't remember when. But my sister was born. She was in the crib. And we were laying down in the bed together. My sister was in the crib and my mom was in the kitchen. And he was with me in bed and he was like throwing me around, but in a sexual way. And my mom opened the door and he flung me like right out the bed. Like I flew out the bed. And I was confused because I was like, why did he throw me off the bed? And my mom immediately got really upset and was like, you know, they went to the other room. They were screaming at each other. He left. And then she came in the room and she was like, listen, I just want to explain to you, like, you cannot be doing this. This is not okay. This is not, you know, okay for a 40-something-year-old man to be playing with you in bed. And she never asked me what happened. She just assumed like this was it, that she didn't ask me for how long it was going on. And she told me it would never happen again. So from that day on, I understood that it was very wrong what my stepfather was doing and that I shouldn't, you know, be doing any of those things. But then he stopped and then did it again. And then I would tell her, and then he would stop, and then he would do it again. And then she would tell him, and then he would stop. And then it got to the point where he was so upset that I was telling her about him that he would then start to physically abuse me. So then I would just have to let him do it. But, you know, it came to a point where my mom knew exactly what was going on. right? And
That's
there
what I
were
was about to
times
ask. Like, was she aware of how bad
she
it got?
was, yeah, I used to tell her all the time. And then she would leave to go to the supermarket. Or I can't remember what she used to do. But in my mind, I was like, why are you leaving me home knowing that this man is doing this? You know? So I really got frustrated, and I used to ask my mom, like, why can't we leave? Like, why can't we just go anywhere? Like, I want to live under a fucking bridge if I have to. Like, I don't want to be here anymore. I was getting frustrated. And she would say, well, we're immigrants. I'm not going to be able to get a job. I'm not going to be able to support you and your sister. And it was just always an excuse. And then she would be like, oh, okay, yeah, we're going to leave. We're going to go. We're going to find somewhere to go. And then it just wouldn't happen. They would fight and it would get back. And it just really lasted for a very, very long time, up until I was 12 years old. Yeah. And I think like that was, I feel like that abuse was worse than Jeffrey Epstein, to be honest with you. You know, I was so young. I was so frustrated. My mom just didn't do her duties as a mom when it was to protect me. And that was super frustrating, you know? So I think like, you know, going to bed, for example, you know, I used to be in bed and he used to come in the middle of the night, and I'm like, what the fuck? Like, how does he have the balls to come in the middle of the night with my mom in the bed, you know? And I remember one night, my mom had gotten into an argument with my stepfather about him, you know, sexually abusing me. And they got into an altercation, but it was so bad that she ended up sleeping in the living room, because I already had told her, like, hey, he's coming in the middle of the night. Like, I can't do this anymore. So she was like, all right, we're going to both sleep in the living room. So in the living room, it was like a couch bed that she kind of made it. And she put a mattress on the floor for me. So, you know, we're in the living room, we're sleeping. And my stepfather comes in the middle of the night and sneaks into her bed sofa, which was on top. And like, he starts touching her and she starts saying no and this and this and that. And it was just so weird. And I was up. And next thing you know, they start having sex while I was on the floor. And I went to go not wake my mom up, but to tell her like, hey, what's going on? Because again, I'm very confused. I must have been 11 or close to 12. I can't remember. And she hit me because I like said something, you know? So I had to lay in that mattress for a really long time and I only like brought me back recently because my friend was in the car and she did something and it was like kind of like a moan, but it was like towards something else. And I went to her, oh, don't do that. I was like, you just brought me back some really bad memories. And it brought me back to my mom moaning that night. And ever since then, I just can't get that off my head. And the worst thing is, later on, like just knowing my mom, when she used to dream, she moaned the same way. So it was like, oh my God, maybe it wasn't the same way, but there was such a hard connection there that I was like, this is terrible. Like, I feel like that's one of the things I just can't get off my head. So I really, really, I think that my whole healing process wasn't just my stepfather, my Jeffrey and Jeffrey Epstein and other men that have abused me. It was really more my mom, you know?
Yeah, like I would imagine having the person that was supposed to protect you is literally the person that's basically handing you over to the wolves. I mean, I can't even imagine what that's like. You know, I'm sure it's strained relationships and done all kinds of things for your whole life. So
yeah, I mean, I don't think it's a relationship anymore, you know?
No, I don't mean her specifically. I just mean it strains relationships in general. And yeah, no, I would assume you guys don't really.
Yeah. I had to cut her off. I think about last year she came to visit me and I just had to really cut her off. It's so toxic. I just feel like my mom feels like that we are in competition, and I don't understand where she thinks that I would even enjoy a second with my stepfather. I was so young. He was in his 40s, you know, like late 40s, early 50s.
Oh, it's sick. It's
yeah,
very sick.
It really is.
Oh man. So what changes? Like what makes do you what shift happens? Nothing until you're 12 basically? Like
So yeah, so then 12 came along, and we always had, so we had a 4-bedroom, which was it was 2 living rooms, and it was supposed to be 2 bedrooms and 2 living rooms. I'm sorry, it was supposed to be 3 bedrooms and 2 living rooms. So we converted one of the living room into my bedroom, and then we rented, and then they had 1 bedroom, and then we rented out the other 2. We always had rented out the other 2 bedrooms. And we had rented out, and there was always people coming in and out in that house because, people rent rooms and then they find an apartment and then they go on with their lives. So we had this couple that was living there, and the girl must have been about 19 years old. And she comes up to me. I used to always go either after school, ballet classes, or dance class, and or I used to just hang out after school. I never wanted to go home, obviously. And I was in Burger King on Steinway Street. At the time, they had Burger King. Now they don't anymore. And she comes up to me. I'm with my friend, and she's like, "Hey, I want to talk to you." She pulls me over to the side. She's like, "I know what your stepfather is doing to you, and he's actually doing the same thing to me. And I want to know if you want to go to the police." And I didn't even think twice of it. I just said yes, right away. And, we went to the 114 precinct. And when I went in there, it was so fucked up in every way because the cops didn't believe me. The police didn't believe that I was getting abused by my stepfather. They thought that, they were like, "Listen, you do know, what you're saying, your stepfather will get in a lot of trouble. You do understand that this is a very serious accusation." I was like, "I know it's a serious, but it is true." And then, with the same questions all the time, you start to, I started to minimize my abuse because I started to feel bad for my stepfather because they started to make me feel bad about it, and I was like, and they were like, "You sure you're not just jealous because your sister is here?" And I was like, "I'm not jealous. This is really happening." They questioned me for, quite a while. And then my mom came in, and her first question was like, "What did you tell them?" And I told her, "Oh, that he only touched me here and only touched." I really minimized. And I said he was only doing it for a year or 2 years. And I didn't tell the police that my mom knew about it because I knew if I told them that I would have gotten taken away from my mom. So they arrested my stepfather while I was in the precinct. And then we left the precinct. My mom was upset. My mom was crying in the precinct. She was like, "Oh my God, what are we going to do? Your stepfather's going to go to jail. How am I going to take care of you and your sister?" So I feel like the guilt trip started already at the precinct, So we get back to our house, and we could see my stepfather's stuff all thrown around, and she's picking the stuff up, and she's so sad, and she's crying, and she's devastated. So I went into my room holy shit, I can be free in this house and not have to worry about my stepfather coming into my room, or me being left alone and waiting by the window for my mom, or worried if my friends are coming over, if they're not going to be allowed over anymore because he used to do the same thing to them. So I had no friends at one point. So I was like, wow, I can finally live a normal tween or a teenager, right? And, I think it just got worse after that because then she started to really blame me for my stepfather going to jail. She was like, "If it wasn't for you to say anything, we wouldn't be in this situation." At that point, we had to start renting out all the other rooms that were in that apartment, and we moved ourselves into the 1 bedroom that they were both in, and we lived in that 1 bedroom, and we had 2 beds, and it was a real struggle, and it wasn't the best relationship between me and my mom. And at the time, I was already working in a real estate office. I was working there as just a girl that would pick up, a secretary. It was on Broadway and 34th, I feel like it was. And I worked there, just it was an after school job. I just used to make a little money. And then I was like, great, now I have to kind of do something else because my mom is not going to be able to do it. We're immigrants. She can't get a job anywhere. She's older. You know how people are when people are older and they really don't have any, they have no experience in anything except for babysitting and cleaning houses, And she was a teacher in Brazil, but it really didn't do anything for her in New York. So my mom found this catering hall in Brooklyn, in Bedford Avenue. And they paid us, I think it was $7 or $6 and something cents, and then it went up to $7.25. So we started to work there together. She brought me, I brought a friend, and all three of us worked together. And we used to get 2 trains, and we used to work there. I used to go there after school, and I used to be there until 11 or 12 o'clock at night. So I was working at the real estate office, and I was working at the catering company. And then after that, just talking to people and telling them, like, they were like, oh, well, we have this gig over here. Oh, we have this catering hall here that wants, extra help for the weekend. Or, at one point I worked in a restaurant in Brooklyn, and then I just started working wherever people would ask me to work, Then I had, I always had this friend from, I met her towards 8th grade going into 9th grade. And she's Brazilian. But every time we got together, it was just never good. We were always out, we were partying, She introduced me to a lot of, I would say, bad men that liked young girls. But at the time, I didn't want to, my stepfather kind of fucked me up in the head so bad that I was like, I will do something, but I won't let anybody touch me. So she would get this like gigs where like men would like to get like fucked by strap-ons, which is very weird. Yeah, you'd be surprised. Men like to get burned. They like to. It was some pretty sick stuff. But she always found these men. So at the same time, it was great because I got to, get my anger out, and I got to beat some of these guys
that was great
up.
Revenge, I would assume, on your part.
Yeah, and I was making money. I was so young. So one day she comes up to me and she goes, hey, I met this really, really rich guy. And I was like, okay. I was like, great. And she was like, yeah, he's really rich. He's very powerful. He lives in Manhattan. He likes to get massaged by young girls. And I was like, perfect. Like another person that I don't have to let them touch me and I could touch them. And she was like, yeah, but the only thing is he just wants you to take your shirt off. It's just like having a bikini. And I was like, doesn't sound that bad, And she's like, yeah. She's like, I feel like you've been through way worse. And I'm like, I agree with you. So she calls me up. She's like, hey, he really wants to meet you. And I'm like, all right, let's go. I'm ready to go.
How old are you at this point?
I was 14. Okay. I just turned 14. And we had talked about it. I was like, it's weird that he really wants to get a massage from me when I really don't know how to do that. She's like, don't worry. He just likes young girls. And, you really don't have to worry about anything. And I'm like, okay. So we get in a cab. We get there. I get to the front of the house. It's completely different than the other men that she has brought me, right? This is now like a whole mansion in Manhattan. And I get there and I'm like, wow, this is insane. You were not joking when you said he was very rich and powerful. She was like, yeah. She rings the doorbell. His maid, or I guess one of his doormen, somebody, answered the door and was like, who is it? And she said who it was. And the maid opens up the door. She leads us to the waiting room, which was like a waiting room, but like an office at the same time. And this is where he had all his pictures with a lot of prominent people. At the time, I didn't know who these people were because I was 14 and not very familiar with the political world and, all these other things. But a couple people there, like, Donald Trump, Bill Clinton, so many different people. And I was so like, oh my God, like I can't believe I'm here right now.
Alrighty guys, taking a quick break from the podcast to hear a word from our sponsor, and that is NordVPN. Nowadays guys, as you know, data is currency. Whether it's Facebook, whether it's Instagram, any of these bigwig tech companies, they're all after your data. and they're not the only ones after your data. As someone who used to be pretty well versed in the world of fraud, your data and your information is more vulnerable than ever. You want to stay safe, you want to make sure no one has access to it, and no one can spy on you to see what you're doing on your devices. Guys, it's more important than ever to have a VPN. If you sign up for NordVPN through Honor Among Thieves Podcast, you'll get introductory rates only available through our link. Make sure to click on the link in the description below. Whether you're watching on YouTube, listening on Spotify, or anywhere else, the link should be in the description. Go ahead and click on it and get started. Now back to the podcast.
So being in that waiting room and seeing all those pictures and just seeing like the house and everything, just a maid, and just not being used to that and not growing up with that, I was very amazed about everything. I was like, wow, this is definitely the real fucking deal, you know? So the maid comes and grabs us, brings us to the elevator. We go onto the 3rd floor. And I'm super nervous because I'm in a house where, you know, I'm not familiar with. And not only that, I'm just like, this person is really rich and powerful. Like whether, you know, I couldn't wrap my head really full around it until later on. And we got upstairs. And when you get upstairs, Jeffrey has, when you open up the elevator door, he has like this hallway kind of with sketches with like naked women and just like black and white sketches and like weird statues. And not thinking anything, I was like, maybe it's right, you know, maybe it's rich people shit. Like, I don't know, you know. We get into the room and I see this room that was like so, it was just so zenned out. Like he had clouds on his ceiling, like this like 3D cloud kind of effect. And it was just a room where he had, well, later I figured this out because there's windows outside, but he blocked them. And then he put a curtain over, really heavy curtain over it. And he had this bureau with like, at the time, obviously you're a guy, so you don't know this. Victoria's Secret was very expensive, and it was definitely the thing what women wanted. You know, like I couldn't afford it, you know, and girls in my school and my neighborhood also couldn't afford it. We had a Victoria's Secret on Steinway. I think that thing was dead unless it had a sale. So seeing this Victoria's Secret, you know, lotions, which I'm pretty sure there were many more expensive lotions there from Paris, and, you know, and I wanted the Victoria's Secret lotion. So he comes into the room with a robe. And he's like, hi, my name is Jeffrey. And I'm like, hi, my name is Marina. He's like, I've heard some wonderful things about you. And right there and then I look at my friend like, oh, you set the record for me. Like, you know, you're already not really thinking of anything. And he lays down, you know, with his face down, and he starts to ask me a whole bunch of things like, where are you from? How old are you? You know, and I'm over here spilling my guts to him, thinking like if I tell him like how bad my situation is, maybe he will help me, you know. And he seemed very interested in you know, in what I had to say about my life and all that. And at one point he's like, I gotta get on a phone call. He gets on a phone call, and you know, I'm looking at this girl. I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe it. We're gonna make $300 for this, you know, like. And at that point I already had taken my shirt off. And it just seemed so easy. I was like, this is great. Like, this is great. I could do this all the time. You know, it's much better than the other gigs where she was getting me, you know? And then he finished his phone call and he turned around, and then, you know, he was naked at that point. And I was a little bit like, oh, like I wasn't expecting this. And he reaches over and he goes to grab my boob. And I was in such shock because now I haven't had anybody touch me since my stepfather. So I froze, but then I looked at him and I put his hand down and I was like, no. And he looked at me like, can you take off your bra? And I was like, I'm not comfortable. And he turned around to me and he said, it's okay. It'll take some time, but you'll be comfortable with me. And at the time I was like, absolutely not. Like, I've already been through this, you know? And my friend got a little upset with me. I think because we have had history together, but this was not the history that we had together. This was a different kind of situation. So she comes to my side and she's like all upset and she's like kind of like move out the way, she says to me in Portuguese, you know, and they start to really go at it. Like she starts to pinch his nipples really hard and he's like, you know, jerking off and he's spitting on his hand, and he's the type of person that once he goes into that realm, he just becomes a whole different person. Like his whole demeanor changed. It was like, whoa, like it was a whole different person. And I was just standing there with my bra on and just looking at them. And then, you know, he finished and he had a towel next to, you know, he has a table right next to him where he had his lotion. He never used the expensive lotions. He had like an oil. And I was just standing there, and then he was like, all right. He gave her he gave her the money, and he's like, I'll be seeing you guys both soon, and I'll let you know when I would like to see Marina again, he said to her. And, you know, we put our shirts on, and I'm looking at her, and she's like, come on, let's go. So I get in the elevator. We rushed out of there. And once we got outside, she looked at me. She goes, what the fuck? And I'm like, you what the fuck? Like, you didn't tell me any of this. She's like, it's not like you would have said no anyways. I said, I think I would have said no. I said, I feel like you know a lot about my past, and you know this is something that I just don't want to do. And she was like, well, you know, I feel like if I would have brought anybody else here, they would have had no problem. And they, you know, so many girls want to be here. I don't know why you're giving me a problem with this. You made $300. You've been through much worse with your stepfather. I don't know why we're even talking about this. And we went back and forth for a little bit. And, you know, she was a part of the grooming, you know. She was like convincing me, like, this is someone. She said to me, this is somebody that could help you in the future. Like, you live in Astoria. You're not going to get anywhere in Astoria. You know, you're not going to meet anybody there. This is it. This is like the biggest guy that I've met, and I'm introducing him to you, and just take advantage of it. And I said to her, I said, I'm not going to be coming back here. Like, I just don't want to go back to see him. He's a creep, you know? So I go back home. I now have $300.
So, you know, from the moment you met him to the moment it got really weird, was that like seconds, minutes? Like, from the moment you were like, oh, this might be a nice guy. It
was like 15, 20 minutes.
And then 15 minutes later, he was a total
And the crazy
weirdo.
part is he expects for you to give him a real massage. So, you know, it's crazy because, like, he's like, yeah, go down on my calf. Like, he always had, like, I don't know why his calf always hurt, but later on I found that out. But I worked in a spa in K-Town, and it was a 24-hour spa, but I only worked in the front desk. And the women, it actually came out like number 2 in New York. It was really good spa. And I used to work the nighttime, and that's why I probably got the job, because nobody wanted it. So it was a 24-hour spa, and nobody really comes into a 24-hour spa. And if they are coming into a 24-hour spa, they're there for the wrong reasons. So a lot of the times we had to kick people out. It's still open. It's a clean spa. And when I worked at night, I had a little room that I could sleep, but I used to get scared because I was responsible for the spa. I was the first person. So at night, when some of the Korean women that were there, they used to massage me. And then they were like, okay, now you massage me. So I kind of learned how to massage there. Not that I got my license. So I kind of knew how to massage, which is really weird. But so I kind of knew how to actually give massages. But he really expected a real massage. And I think 15, 20 minutes, you know, into the massage, it got weird, you know, but it was his normal, which is crazy.
Yeah, his normal is fucking demented is what it is.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah.
So it's pretty wild.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I don't think it's as wild.
I would have expected it to be like a slow, gradual introduction into his disgusting world, but it was basically like, hi, my name's Epstein. You know, my name's Jeffrey Epstein. I'm gonna get naked now. Like, it's way faster than I expected.
I think that he thought that she already had told me that was gonna happen. And I think so too, listening to some of the other survivors, like there's one survivor that was like, she's going through a really, really hard time through her healing process. it took him a long time to do anything with her, like months. And when he did, she thought it was only with her, and then she brought her friends, and then he started to do it with her friends, and her friends were like, what the fuck, you didn't tell me that. And then she was like, what do you mean he's doing it with you? He only does that with me. Some of these women, and I think it depends where you were abused. Some of them thought they were like his girlfriend. Some of them thought that he loved them. Some of them thought multiple other things.
All right, so you basically get in a full-on argument with your friend. You don't
Right.
want to go back.
I don't want to go back.
What happens after that?
So I go back home, and now I have $300, and I'm like, wow, this is like, I made $300 in a half an hour, and going back home, just my mom was on my back. I mean, I had just started high school. I was working in a Greek nightclub at that time. And my hours were from 7 o'clock at night until like 4 or 5 in the morning, depending if you were the type of person that you were spending money. We let the club open. We stayed the club open, and I used to come home and just sleep. And then I used to have my mom waking me up, like, get the fuck up. You need to go to school. And it's like, what the fuck? I was just working the whole night and bringing home like $300-$400 in tips, which is a lot of money, and she used to be like, come on, you're a fucking bum, get the fuck up, you're never gonna be anything in your life, you'll just be a better version of me, why did I bring you here? Just like, my mom really fucking tore me up, though, I gotta tell you. And sometimes I laugh at it today because I'm just like, it kind of made me tough, and it kind of made me really want to, unfortunately, prove to her that, no, I'm not going to become a better version than you. I'm going to just be who I am, and I'm going to succeed at what I want to do. So with that going on, I was going to school, working at that club. But that club, I was only able to work there 2-3 times a night sometimes. It depended when they had special Greek singers. I used to sell flowers, and Greeks have this tradition where they throw flowers, they throw money at these singers. And during that time, I met Jeffrey Epstein, and I was like, wow, sometimes I make these great tips at night, but sometimes I don't have those great nights, because that's what it is when you work in that world. It's like being a bartender. Sometimes you make $500 and then you go home with $20, like that's how it is. And we were struggling. My mom was not working. And we barely had anything to eat at that point, because I think our bills were so backed up, and I think that everything I was giving her, I would literally keep money for my bacon, egg, and cheese, because us New Yorkers, we gotta have our bacon, egg, and cheese, my little coffee, and I used to smoke Marlboro Menthol Lights, and I used to keep $20 to cop a dub. At the time, we used to go to Washington Heights, and we used to cop a dub of haze, and we used to smoke, and that was like the only thing I had, and I was, living in that house and just seeing like what my sister was eating, what I was eating, and just like barely making it through, and just having my mom count the money and put like the 20s into hundreds so we could pay our rent. So this girl calls me maybe 2-3 weeks later, and she's like, hey, Jeffrey's in town. Not knowing this man travels all over the world. I'm like, he's in town. Doesn't he live here? He's like, he's in town. He really wants to see you. He really likes you, Marina. I'm telling you, like, you need to take advantage of this. And I was like, I really don't want for him to do anything to me. And she was like, just go back to him. Like, listen, he's a really great guy. He's really going to help you. Like, I've seen this guy. He has helped other women, other girls, And I was like, you know what, fuck it. I really do need the money. And I really don't want my relationship with my mom to be like this. I just thought that if I could fix things at home and have all the bills paid and have my mom comfortable, that our relationship would go back to normal. I went back. And when I did go back, I went with her. He wasn't aggressive, and he didn't try anything, actually. He was very, very nice. And I think that a lot of us, when we do these podcasts, we talk about that this man is such a mastermind. He's just a mastermind at manipulating. He knew exactly how to get me. He was like, oh, I got to take my time with this girl. No problem. And he did. He got to know me. He didn't do anything. And it was like every time I went there, it was like, oh, take off your bra. Oh, can I touch it? Oh, can I do? And then next thing you know, I got raped by him, but I didn't remember that. And I only remembered it until like last year. Yeah. I was like, I went to, which her memorial is coming up. Virginia's memorial is coming up. I went to her memorial they did here in Florida. They put it together for a couple girls. And it was my first time meeting Brittany and Brad and, well, being with them because I had met them a couple weeks before, and being with the other survivors, and then seeing with the survivors that I knew, but I was like, wow, I didn't even know that you were in part of Jeffrey's world. And going there and just seeing how, how everybody was and a little bit of their story. I was like, wow. I was a little bit in shock of what the girls were telling me. I was like, I couldn't believe it. Like, everybody was telling me they got raped by this man. So I came back home and I still talked to one of the girls that, went with me to Jeffrey Epstein's house. And I said to her, I'm like, dude, this guy has raped everybody. I'm like so in shock. Like he would never do that to us. Like, and let me tell you, Jeffrey Epstein has done a whole bunch of shit to us. Like, he's used toys. He's so fucking perverted. Like, to the point where you would walk into his bathroom, he had like half bodies, like with boobs, and like he would have half bottom bodies on his bathrooms. Like, he was just so weird. And I said this to her, I was like, I can't believe like he did this to all these girls. And she was just like, are you okay? I was like, yeah, I'm okay. I'm just really surprised. Like, I'm really in shock that he did this to these girls. And I can't believe this. He would never do that to us. And she turns around and she was like, she like stuttered and she was like, I don't know how to tell you this, but I just want you to go back a little bit in time and remember when Jeffrey Epstein used you, and he used to put all of us in the room, like 4 of us, and he used to rape you in front of us and tell us, like, this is how you're supposed to do it. This is how you're supposed to be a good girl. This is how you listen to me. And I'm on the phone and I'm like, what? She's like, yeah, Marina. She's like, a whole bunch of times. She's like, I'm surprised you don't remember this. And I'm like, I don't remember this. And, the more I sat there after I hung up with her and I started to think, I was like, oh my God. Now I'm starting to remember some things. I'm like, how could I not remember that? Like, how could I not fucking remember? Like, this is like huge, But I think it's just trauma. That's just what happens to the body,
Suppression.
And yeah. And I wasn't able to remember it.
The brain's way of kind of helping you survive.
Your body, yeah.
All right, so during that, you have that initial reaction. You don't want to go back. Then you do. I'm assuming you kind of have like a weird mental thing going on where you're in and you're out, and I do want to do this. I don't.
No, because he was so nice. So every time I was going there, I was getting like this awesome treatment. He was so nice. He was so polite. And every time something would come off, I didn't
Was it always at his house, at the same place?
It was always at his house. I never went to the island. I was an immigrant. I feel like when people ask me in podcasts, they're like, you weren't invited to the island? I was like, I was an immigrant. But you know what I've noticed too? Like, the girls that were around me and went to Jeffrey Epstein, we were from Astoria. So we were a little bit of like, we were like the ghetto girls, like 2 of my friends robbed his watch and he was like, come back with the watch, like we just did stupid things. And I think he knew like these girls could not be around my other friends. Like they are dangerous. They like to steal shit. I was like stealing Victoria's Secret lotions, it was like so bad to the point where, I was doing drugs. I was smoking weed, but then I started to obviously do other drugs, And me and this friend, we always used to get bombed before we went there. And it's just obvious because, like, we don't want to feel anything, you know? And we were drinking and, you know, I was doing coke at the time. And she pulls out a bag of coke and we're in the massage room and we took a bump and, you know, didn't think anything of it, you know, went on with our massage, did whatever we did. We left. We come back a week later, both of us, and he comes up to both of us and he's like, "Are you girls doing drugs?" And we're like, no. He's like, "I know your girls are doing drugs. I know you are. And I'm going to tell you one thing. If I ever catch you or find out that you're doing drugs," he's like, "I'm going to take a piece of your hair and I'm going to send it out to the lab. And if I find out that you are doing drugs, you're cut. You're done." And we were just like, what the fuck? How does he know? And we were so young. We should have knew right there and then he had cameras in those rooms, you know?
Because even sickos have to have boundaries, I guess, right?
I think that he didn't want us to, like, be numb. I think he wanted us to feel everything that was going on. And that's something that me and my girlfriend, we talk about today. She's like, she's becoming an artist, so she doesn't want to come out. And we talk about it all the time. And she's like, "You know, I remember you and, you know, so-and-so used to get fucked up all the time." She didn't. She was just a smoker, you know. She was like, "You guys almost got caught out there." And she was laughing at me, you know, we were laughing at the situation. And of course, some of the things we laugh about it now because we're just like, oh my God, we were so fucking stupid. Like, how could we have not known that he was, you know, recording us, you know? Like, there were so many things that were like so obvious, but we were just so young at the end of the day. It was just, we weren't thinking of that, you know?
How often would you go see him?
You know, sometimes I would see him twice in a day. Sometimes I'd see him 3 times in a week. Sometimes I wouldn't see him. It just depended on his schedule, you know? I think that, you know, Jeffrey, the thing is, I think that everyone doesn't understand about Jeffrey. Jeffrey Epstein, as soon as he saw you, he got what he wanted. He wanted you to bring somebody that would be new and fresh. He didn't want the same thing. And I think that's where I stepped out of his world because I got to an age where I was like, I can't bring girls that are younger than me. I have a sister who I was taking care of at the time. So, and she's 8 years younger than me. So I'm like, I can't do it, you know? And also, like, I was 17 going on 18. I'm like, what the hell does a 15, 14-year-old want to do with me? You know, it's just so creepy. So Jeffrey really he was a master. He was like, you know what? I'm not going to do the dirty work. I'm going to have these girls do the dirty work, you know? And we did, because some of us, like myself, I came across a lot of Latin women, a lot of Brazilian women, a lot of Russian girls, a lot of Polish girls that came from other countries. And I don't know how they were able to just meet me right away. My apartment that I rented at the time, I was 15 years old. People would come in and out and they just knew I was renting the rooms to people that were in need. And I was renting for like $500, you know? And a lot of people came to me and wanted to rent a room. They came from other countries. Their parents would send them with very little money. They're like, go out there, get a job and go to school and, you know, make something of yourself in America. You know, it's the American dream to come from another country. But a lot of these women that come, and men did too, a lot of these boys, you know, came with very little money, no guidance, no help. And what did these people mostly do? These girls couldn't go and strip. They didn't have the age to strip. They didn't have the papers if they were above age to strip. So they found other ways to navigate around it. They used to work in a coffee shop. Like I started to work in a coffee shop where you could get paid under the table, and it still wasn't enough, you know, and then you just had to do other things. The boys, right away, what they did was sell drugs. It was the first thing they did. They hit the street. You know, and sometimes I wonder, like, what did these parents think? Did they think they were going to come out here and go to college? With what money? You need money to go to college in America. In Brazil, you don't. College is free. It's different, you know. But here, it doesn't work like that, you know. So I think everybody that we have brought there, we really thought we were helping them, you know. I mean, I had this talk with one of the survivors. She was like, oh my God, I can't believe, Jeffrey's secretary was like getting him girls and getting these girls green cards. I said, what? I said, I was an immigrant. I'd be the first one in line. I said, you don't know what it's like to be an immigrant. You're an immigrant in this country. You don't exist. You don't have a social security. You don't exist. I said to her, she was doing what she thought was helping other girls. What we were doing the same thing. We were getting these girls from fucked up homes, not broken homes. People are like, oh, broken homes, like divorce. I'm going through a divorce. That's a broken home. And let me tell you, even then, 2026, you're still able to co-parent. A fucked up home is where like your parents just don't give a fuck. They just don't care, So we thought we were helping these girls. Some of Jeffrey's secretaries thought they were helping girls. And let me tell you, I think they got the worst treatment because from what I'm understanding, they weren't allowed to eat when they wanted. They weren't allowed to leave when they wanted. And the pressure that they had to get them 6 to 8 girls a day. Can you imagine that?
6 to 8 girls a day?
Yes. He needed to climax. And this is from Ghislaine's Netflix show. He had a doctor's note stating that he needed to climax at least 6 to 8 times a day.
What the fuck?
I don't know how much.
I don't even know how the human body can sustain that.
I was gonna say, I don't think even a sex addict could do
no,
that. But
that's like to the point of injury. You know what I'm saying? It's too much. It's way too much. Where the fuck he's this important business guy, right? Where do you find the time to?
Well, he lied to every one of us, right? Like he had told other girls, he told us he was a brain surgeon. And I don't know why I'm so embarrassed of saying that today as an adult, because I'm like, why did I believe that? Like, and also we didn't have the internet like that, we couldn't just go on Google and search up Jeffrey Epstein, and we didn't care. We were a little bit like of these girls, like we need our money and we need to go. Like, we don't care about this guy. We don't really, we got to the point where I was like, he's definitely not going to help me. Like, it's been like 2.5 years at this point, like I give up on this shit, a lot of us didn't know what he did. But when I meet the other survivors, he has told them a whole bunch of other things. He was a teacher at NYU and, this and that. It's just like everyone was told a different story,
Yeah, so you never could really find out who he was, I guess, even in spite of going to his house or whatever, And especially not having access to the internet, I get it. It's not like you talk to people about, You talk to people about the 90s or how it used to be, and, people nowadays that were born in like 2000. Can you believe there's someone that was born in 2001 is 25 years old? Don't even get me started. I feel like, I'm not old, I'm 33, but anyway. When you tell somebody like, hey, we honestly didn't know who this guy was. Like, he told us his name, but I didn't know anything about his life. And it's like, you didn't know. There was no way to know,
I don't know. And I don't know
unless
if you remember.
Like follow this guy. And
do you remember the cable boxes they used to buy?
With the red numbers?
Right. Yeah. But you like bought them off the street or off the black market.
Yeah, I feel like. You had somebody that used to fix the cable box. You go to their house and buy a box.
Right. Yeah. And it's like going back how bad that I remember how much porn my stepfather used to watch, that the channel was 62. I don't know how the hell I still remember that. It's terrible. But, I feel like that box was like our only way to find out what was going on. And I'm going to tell you, being a kid, I was not watching the news. I talk to my daughter now and they talk a lot about politics in school. And I try to explain to her a little bit about politics because I really just started learning about politics. I feel like from September until now, I'm, somewhat educated on the political side. But I was like, wow, this is pretty confusing. I try to explain it to her and she's like, I don't understand. I'm like, it's okay.
Yeah.
You'll understand later on. Yeah.
So how long, from beginning to end, how many years were you around him?
Jeffrey?
Yeah.
From 14 until 17, close to 18.
Until right before he went to prison?
So I stopped seeing him around 2005, 2006. Okay. He went to prison.
In 2018.
Right. But the FBI went looking for him in 2008. and might have been 2007. No, it was 2008 because I just went on I had to go back on some of my stuff. It was June 2000. It was before June. But the FBI came knocking on my door in 2008. And I was still living in that house on 41st Street. I was living by myself. I first moved into that house with a boyfriend because my mom, when my stepfather did his 6 months in jail, he went to he had a probation officer. And after a while, my mom was like, oh, by the way, your stepfather's moving back in. So my boyfriend at the time, who was selling drugs, was like, you're not going to stay there. You're moving in with me. So we had gotten an apartment. It was right across the street from my house, my mom's apartment. But then we moved out into this apartment on 41st Street. But obviously, he cheated on me because he was so young, you know. And we split up. I ended up going back to my mom's house in my bicycle. I had a bicycle at the time. And he calls me up. He's like, listen, just come back. He's like, I'll leave. Like, I know you're upset, you know. And I get it. And I was like so mad at him. And today I'm like, man, we were like fucking, he was like 17, 18 years old. What did I expect? You know, but he really, I feel like he's like one of the best people I've known in my life. And obviously today he's very successful. He has a wife. He's, you know, he just had a kid. I'm very thankful for him. So when I lived in that apartment, so he moved out and I stayed in that apartment. And when I stayed in that apartment, you know, after he moved out, I was like, fuck, like, I got to do this shit on my own now because I had him to help me out. And I was like, now I'm by myself. And when the FBI came, one of the girls, Jane Doe, was there with me. And the FBI comes and they're like, are you Marina Lacerda? You know, they knock on the door. I go down the stairs. They're like, are you Marina Lacerda? I'm like, yes, I am. They're like, well, we're so-and-so. We're so-and-so. They show me their badges and they're like, we want to talk to you about Jeffrey Epstein. And I immediately was like, nope. And I went to go close the door. And when I went to go close the door, the FBI agent, the woman, put her foot on the door and she was like, you're going to talk to me whether you like it or not. Here's my card. Call me when you want. And she dropped the card on the floor. And I closed the door and I just look at my friend like, what the fuck? Like, I hadn't seen Jeffrey in a long time, but one thing I couldn't erase was his 212 number. So I run upstairs and I call his secretary and I'm like, have Jeffrey call me. I have the FBI in my door. She was like, oh my God, okay. Jeffrey calls me within seconds. He's like, Marina, what's going on? I'm like, I don't know, Jeffrey. You tell me. I have the FBI in my door. And he was like, just don't answer the door. Don't call them. Don't call me. And I'm like, but what am I supposed to do? I'm like, I have to tell them, like, I have to tell them what's going on. I don't even know what they want to ask me. He was like, don't call them. Don't call me back. I'm going to have a lawyer call you. And he did. He had a lawyer call me and I went to the office. But my whole thing was like, this is not a lawyer to protect me. This is a lawyer to protect this man. Now, I didn't know that he was going on trial in West Palm. He was already getting in trouble in West Palm. I had no idea. No internet. Like, I was not watching TV. And I definitely did not have cable when I was living by myself, it was so expensive.
No, in 2008, I don't remember ever hearing. I didn't hear about Jeffrey Epstein until like the very end. Until, you know, I literally don't remember ever hearing that name ever.
Well, Alexa Costa gave him a sweetheart deal in 2008. And when he was in West Palm and he was, you know, he was fighting, I guess, and with the Florida girls, and they were trying to get me to come down to West Palm and to go and stand. And I was like, oh man, you know, and of course, when I get to these lawyers' office, I'm like, right away, I was like, am I supposed to be completely honest here? Because I'm like, oh, maybe I can lie about things so that I can lie in court. And they were like, no, you need to be completely honest about everything. And I was like, oh, okay. But I already knew the thing is I got scared because I was like, they just want to know how much I know about this man and like how far this is going to go. So I was like, okay, here we go. Back to like where my stepfather went with the priest, and let me start to minimize everything. So I started to minimize everything. And they were like, well, listen, you can get in a lot of trouble for this. We just want to tell you that. You brought underage girls. I was like, but I'm underage. They're like, you're not underage now. I was like, I know, but I haven't seen Jeffrey. And they were like, doesn't matter. You brought other girls there. You're going to go to jail. And we have to ask now to get immunity for you. And I was like, you know, and at the time I was like, immunity? Like, what do you mean? They're like, don't worry about it. We'll figure it out. So really that whole time I was just blindsided like by everything. I didn't know what was going on. And they turned around to me one day. It was the day after my birthday, because now I can look back on my files. They were like, you don't have to go to West Palm. Don't worry about it. You don't ever have to worry about this. I was like, that's it? They were like, yep, that's it. I was like, thank God. But meeting the girls in 2019, well, not 2019, 2025 is really one. Well, I met the girls in 2024, actually, because it was Virginia's memorial, right? I was like, wow. I was like, that's so fucked up. I could have went on Stan and I could have probably put him away. But he knew this, and I think this is the reason why I was named minor victim 1. If I really would have went on Stan, and that's why he got the sweetheart deal, he got what he did with Alexa Costa, that would have put him away for life. Not for life, but for a long time, because then I would have told everybody about the New York girls. They had no idea about the New York girls. So he really knew that he had to take that deal.
At that point, they were just focused on the Florida girls. They didn't have the island and then what was going on with you. They didn't have any of that.
Nothing. They had it with me, but since I had his lawyers, they were doing everything to keep me away from the stand. Yep. Yeah. And then when I go back on my files today, I was like, holy shit, they fucking had an immunity. Like, they really were serious about that. I was going to go to jail. They were going to prosecute me. They were going to prosecute me.
Sounds like the feds. Instead of trying to help you.
Sounds like they were protecting a fucking 50-year-old something man, but they were ready to arrest. I think at the time when, you know, this was going on, I was like 19, I think, you know.
Yeah, I have a special disdain for the federal government. I can't fucking stand the FBI. I can't stand any of them. Like, yeah, people call me bitter because I went to prison. Look, save all that shit, bro. Like, when you get a glimpse of what the feds do to people and how dirty they play, I'll tell you a quick story. This doesn't have to do, but just to get you an idea. So this guy, he's a gangster. He's a criminal. I get it. He's a drug dealer. He gets caught, and he's one of these guys who's like not gonna talk. Like, he's one of these guys, right? So he's looking at the DEA like, what do you want from me? Mm-hmm. Like, what are you waiting for? Take me to jail, bro. Mm-hmm. I'll do my time. Like, I did it, you know. He puts the phone on speaker. This is a story one of the guys told me in prison. The DEA throws a cell phone on the table, puts it on speaker, and he hears 2 girls like yelling, "Ah!" And he's like, "Is that my mom and my sister?" And then the other guy on the line is like, "Hey, this is DEA agent such and such. I'm with your mom and your sister. Here's what's gonna happen, bro. Either you give that agent what he wants, or I'm gonna indict your mom on money laundering. That's what's gonna happen. Play your cards right." And it's like, bro, you pieces of shit. Like, you can't lose. They just can't lose. They can't take a loss. And then in your case, right, I believe that they would come after you instead of going after the fucking scumbag piece of shit that raped a bunch of underage little girls. Mm-hmm. You'd rather indict her to scare her into doing what you want than just going after this piece of shit. You know, it's like
too much money, too much power involved.
It's ridiculous.
You know,
it's ridiculous.
And also, it's just everything's always been corrupted.
100%.
You know, 100%. Listen, nothing beats, like, I went to the Pam Bondi hearing. You know, and just seeing how Pam Bondi is and how cold she is and how she dehumanized us the whole time, you know. I was like, you got to be a cold witch to do this shit, you know, because we really stood there and, you know, Rep Jai Paul was like, you know, get up and, you know, can you just turn around and, like, look at these victims, you know, look at these survivors. And she was like, Pam Bondi did not flinch. So, you know, I feel like I agree with you. I feel like we've always lived in a corrupted world, and I think that we're just starting to see a lot of things now. Yeah, but
we're getting a glimpse into it, and now it's like you can't ignore it.
It's scary.
No matter what kind of life you live, no matter how poor you are, how rich you are, now you can't ignore the disgusting nature of a lot of the people that control this world. Like, and it's in our faces. Illuminati used to be a joke, right?
Now it's definitely a real thing.
Now it's like, no. There are people who run the world, and they are disgusting. You know?
I forgot who was given an interview. It was like it was a trans. I can't remember her name. She has like purple hair. She's a transvestite. She's really big. She was talking about the Illuminati world, and she was like giving a breakdown of it. And the host had asked her something. She was like, "Yeah, I can't tell you that because I do want to stay alive." But you know, we listen to Cat Williams. You know, like I listen to him all the time.
That whole interview he had with Shannon Sharp was crazy.
Was crazy.
So
crazy.
Quick question. Let's backtrack a little bit. Did you only interact with Jeffrey, or did he introduce you to other like wealthy, powerful people?
No.
Just him?
You know, we talked about it the other day, me and my girlfriend. I was like, I wonder why we talked to a lot of people on the phone. A lot of people. He used to put us on the phone with a lot of important, you know, celebrities, just different politicians.
Friends of his.
Yeah. And he used just to be like, you know, I'm with this beautiful young Brazilian girl. I'm with this beautiful, you know, whatever European girl, young girl, beautiful, gorgeous, this and that, you know. Never used to say our age. And he used to put us on the phone. And we were like, oh my God, we're going to say hi to so-and-so, you know. And we were like, we thought it was cool, you know. He never introduced us to anybody. And like I said, we were a little bit hood. You know, we were from Astoria. We were these girls that were like just really, we needed money. We needed money. That was our point. It was like either you're going to help us to make money or to go somewhere, like to make it somewhere where we do make a lot of money. And if it wasn't in our realm, we didn't care about it. We didn't want anything to do with it, you know? So, and I think he knew that. He knew like how we were raised. We were raised basically on the street, and he was like, I can't bring these girls around these other, you know, these parties, you know? I know that for a fact. Like we were talking about it, me and my girlfriend, like, how come we never, not that we wanted to, we were just talking about it. She was like, man, we used to steal his shit all the time. He used to tell us like, bring it back. I don't know how he even had the patience with us. He knew. He was like, if I bring these girls around these other rich men, they're going to rob everybody.
Rob everybody.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
All right. So those lawyers work out like a whole immunity thing with the girls in Florida.
I only found out
later.
Recently.
Yeah.
Like December, I found out.
Basically, but at the time, what happened was they call you, tell you it's done. Don't worry about it.
That's it. It's
and
done.
Then you move on with your life.
I moved on in my life. At the time, I was...
You said you were like 19?
Yep. 2008, right? Yep. I was 19. I think I had just started working in a strip club. I was like, I'm done working for all these people. I am now, you know, over the age of 18. So I started to work in Jersey as an entertainer, as they say. And I was like, wow, man, I'm driving an hour and a half. And the crazy part is the person that brought me to the club was my mom. Because I had told her, I was like, you know, I'm done like working these shitty jobs. I'm like not making enough money. And she was like, you want to work at a strip club? I was like, yeah, I think I do. She was like, I'll drive you there. So she takes me there. We go to New Jersey. Can't even say the name of the fucking city because it's like so fucking hard. It's like Hapapanga. I can't say it. So we get there and, you know, I'm like new to this world. And obviously Jersey's completely different rules than, you know, New York. Like if you took your top off, it only could be in a private room. And it was like $25. It was just so weird. And I was like driving an hour and a half and I was like, I didn't want to work in the city because I didn't want my friends to know. So I got to a point where I was like, fuck this shit. Nobody's paying my fucking bills. I'm going to go downtown my God, I'm blanking out right now. By Wall Street. Thank you. I was like, I'm going to go downtown by Wall Street. And I started working in New York Dolls.
Where all the brokers are. Blowing all their money. Yeah. Even back then. Yeah.
So I started working there. And then they had a sister club, which was Flash Dancers in Midtown. And they're like, hey, do you want to go to Flash Dancers in the weekend? It was Midtown. And I was like, that might be a little bit risky because, you know, my friends go to, you know, Manhattan. I was like, fuck it. They're not going to come on a Saturday daytime. I was a daytime girl. And then I just got to a point where I was like, you know what? I'm just going to work wherever I want. And then I started to, when I turned close to 21, I was like, I can't work anymore in this place because unfortunately it's owned by Barry, who's a Russian, and he really was so fucking mean, you know. And I was like, I'm gonna go work somewhere else. So I went to Cheetahs, I went to all these other places. They were like, you're 20, you know.
You came to work in Florida?
No.
There's two Cheetahs down here.
I've never worked.
There's one in Hollandale and there's one in I shouldn't be saying that. I know where they are. Anyway.
It's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
like, forget it. Let's scratch that off. Yeah.
I mean, you can keep it in the video, but I don't know why I'm admitting I know where that is.
It's okay.
I
feel like everyone.
In my 20s, I was a savage.
I feel like everyone goes to strip clubs sometimes to hang out. I feel like girls do too.
For me, it was too much. It was I partied way too much.
Everyone had that moment where they partied too much. It was not. It should not be okay, but it's okay.
But there's two Cheetahs down here. That's why I thought it was Florida.
No, they opened up a Cheetahs in New York, which is a weird concept. Like, it was very weird. But then I started going from club to club, and then I went into Rick's Cabaret. And I was like, I like this place. But they didn't want to hire me because I was 20. And they didn't want to take that chance if you drank and you got caught and they could lose their liquor license. But I was with my friend and she dropped she had a piece of paper where it was like a Bible, like something. It was, I don't know if it was a page from the Bible. It said something. And the manager was like, oh, you guys are religious? I was like, no, but she is. And he's like, I'll hire you girls. And, you know, from there I worked and I did so much for that club. I did so much promo for that club. And I did stuff with Howard Stern. I did some Playboy. I did this. I did that.
You were on Howard Stern?
Yeah.
Holy
I did
shit.
some of the stuff with, not on Howard Stern, but with the Howard Stern crew.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
Like they did their ping pong thing. They just had different things that would go on their shows. My 21st birthday was in Vegas with the Howard Stern crew, with Artie Lane. Unfortunately, he was not in his best. He wasn't the best at that time. He was really bad on drugs. And he was dating my girlfriend. And we actually got kicked out of his room because we smoked weed. Meanwhile, he was smoking crack at the time. It was really bad. And
draw our lines at weed. Weed is
it wasn't him. You know, the thing is, we had spent the day before with him, and we were having so much fun. But he was so fucked up, he couldn't even stand. He's very nice. Don't get me wrong. And my girlfriend was taking full advantage of him, obviously, because this man is so fucked up. He doesn't even know from left or right. He doesn't know anything. He's handing over people $10,000 chips for opening up just pressing the button. He was handing out money to everybody. So when his security guard came in the next day, he had a show. They thought, oh, these girls are taking his chips. And now they're smoking. My girlfriend wasn't. Now she's smoking weed in the bathroom. So he got really upset. He's like, get the fuck out. And my girlfriend is so, God bless her soul, she's no longer here with us anymore. But she was so fucking bougie. I swear to God. She was like, I can't leave here because we were staying, I can't remember where. It was I don't know, the Bellagio or something. And we had to go down to the Strip and get one of those $50 hotels. And she was like, I can't do this. And she was crying. I was like, girl, it's my 21st birthday. I told you I was coming out here with $500 in my pocket. Stop playing with me. We're going to go out. And she was so sad and she was crying. It was the worst thing ever. She was like, I can't believe we're staying in this dirty ass hotel. But he made up for it. He called us the same day. He was like, hey, listen, come back. I think it was the Hard Rock. I can't remember. He was like, come back. I got a room for you guys. You guys can, everything's on my card. I'm sorry my security guard acted that way. But crack was okay. Weed was not. So, so I worked in this club for a really long time. And then I got pregnant. And I changed. I was like, I don't want to be an entertainer anymore. I was like, I want to be a massage girl. I was like, these massage girls are getting $20 at dances. I know how to do massages. And, I became a massage girl. I was like,
the massage girl in the club that goes around. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I made so much more money that way, to be honest with you. I was just not a good entertainer. I just didn't have the patience for it. And I definitely wasn't up for faking stuff, like paying attention to things that really didn't matter to me. So I became a massage girl. That worked out great. And then I got pregnant and I was like, hey, I gotta leave, like, you know, and they were like, no, don't leave, you know. I became the girl who knew everything about the club. I knew who did what, I know who had what, and I was just like the person who like knew everything about that club. And that club was pretty big and we had a lot of girls come in and out. So when I left, I was like, that's it, like, you know. And the crazy thing is I loved the hustle. I loved to be in that, like, in that momentum. And I left, and then I had my daughter, and like 3 months later my manager calls me. He's like, hey, do you want to come back and work? And I was like, I can't do it. Like, I just I can't work there. He's like, no, I want you to come back as a manager. And I was like, oh, now we're talking. So I came back as a manager, but then I went to go find out. It's like, you know, when you're a waitress and then you become a manager and you're like, what the fuck was I thinking? Because now I have a set pay. Well, it's kind of what happened to me. You know, I became a manager. I was working on the 3rd floor. I was a VIP manager. So I would, you know, I knew the guys that were going in there. I knew exactly what kind of stuff they were looking for. So I would just plug them in with the right girl. And I did that for a long time. And then COVID happened. And then I was like, well, I guess I'm moving down to Florida.
Okay.
Yeah.
So right before that, so tell me about kind of how you heard that Jeffrey Epstein was in prison and he got arrested and all that in 2018 when all that happened.
You know, I can't remember. Oh, yes, I do remember. The FBI came to my house again. The FBI came to my house again. My mom was living with me at that time. Me and my soon-to-be ex-husband, we had separated at that time. We separated in 2016. I think everybody was single in 2016. I think 2016 was the year. There was no couples in 2016. We separated in 2016. The FBI came to me in 2018, and my divorce was still lingering on. And when the FBI came to me, I was in the supermarket. My mom calls me. She's like, hey, you have the cops here. And I'm like, are they dressed as cops or are they dressed in regular clothes? She's like, regular clothes. I'm like, got it. So I knew right there and then it was some deep shit. So I called my friend. I'm like, hey, listen, I don't know what I did. The only thing that I've done wrong is I've insured my car in New Jersey so I don't have to pay New York taxes.
You're thinking of like, why are the cops looking for me?
So I was like, man, I'm going to get caught for like insurance fraud. I'm like,
or some
fuck.
something stupid. Yeah, I guess.
Oh my God. And then I did even more of a stupid thing. I parked my car 10 blocks away from my apartment thinking that was going to make a difference. And obviously that would have not made a difference if they knew about it. And I had to walk 10 blocks with like 3 supermarket bags that I had something in there that I had completely, I didn't even probably need it because I went to the supermarket for something else. I come in the house and like 5 seconds later, they knock on the door. They were nice this time. They were like, hi, are you Marina Lacerda? And I was like, yes, I am. And, they introduced themselves. They're like, can we come in for a second? I was like, of course. So now my mom and my daughter are upstairs. I had a little private house in New York. Which they call it here a townhouse, I guess. And they were like, we want to talk to you about Jeffrey Epstein. We need to ask you some questions. And they were like, when did you meet him? So I told them briefly a little bit about it, but then they started to get like really deep. And I was like, no. I was like, guys, we can't talk about this. Like my mom and my daughter is upstairs. And they're like, okay, well, we're going to give you a list of lawyers. You do have a right to, retain a lawyer. So just find one and, have them get in touch with us. And then I had to like pick out of like 4 lawyers, and I ended up choosing Roberta Kaplan, which was on top of the Empire State Building. And we went from there. And I was completely blind because, things were happening along the way where she was like, listen, lawyers want to make money, right? And if they have a case, they're like, how can we make money off of this? So me, I'm just trying not to go to court. I'm like, I just don't want to go to court. I don't want to go I don't want to go on the stand. I don't want to go against this guy, And then not only that, I had to sit in the FBI and then tell them what girls went there. So now I have my friends who now are going to be like, now I have to call them and tell them like, hey, listen, I just spoke to the FBI. But one thing that people don't know, the FBI knows everything. They just want to hear it from you, you know.
They suspect everything. They just
Well,
need.
I later learned that they were watching me from 2016. So they were really behind me for 2 years because they only came to me 2018. So I don't know. You know, Jeffrey Epstein also wasn't the smartest of all because he had written everything down, and every time he paid us, he had a receipt. So he kind of didn't help. You know, like some of my files, it had like mine and my friend's name. It just like at the end of the day, you know, my friends are like, "Damn, you fucking snitched on us." I was like, "No." I was like, they know there were us. There were other people there. Like, I had to give my phone up. Like, my phone, like, they went through all my text messages. I'm like, there's nothing I can do. I'm like, you guys are not going to get in trouble. And, you know, everybody stopped talking to me. Like, all my friends stopped talking to me. I wasn't really talking to them already. But, you know, all these girls that, you know, had gone there were upset with me. They were mad at me.
No one wanted to take this guy down. Like, all you guys were just like, I want nothing to do with this.
Nobody wanted anything to do with this. The Florida girls were like, we want to take this motherfucker down. Like, they really wanted to. And now I don't know anything about Florida. I had no idea. But my friends were upset. But then once they got a lawyer and they learned that there was litigation going on, and, you know.
That's what made them want to be like, all right, no, I'm okay. Yeah.
Exactly.
So basically, the FBI shows up at your door. You obviously are forced to cooperate.
Yeah, I had to go to my lawyer's office with the FBI and answer questions. I didn't have no time to kind of like talk to my lawyers about things.
But did the FBI make it clear that they weren't going to charge you? Or they were just being...
It was different this time. They weren't going to charge me.
Okay. So they
were very nice to me. I have to say, this time around, they really, you know, they were kind of trying their best to figure out what was going on and what was this Jeffrey Epstein doing in New York. They had no idea. I think they really had a lot of information in West Palm.
And the first time around when you dealt with Jeffrey's lawyers and all that, was it Jeffrey's lawyers trying to make you think the FBI could come after you, or did you really know that the FBI could come after you back then?
In 2008?
Yeah. Back then when they were
no.
like,
I had no idea. I was not in contact with...
So it's possible that the lawyers were just trying to get in your head and they...
Oh, like... no. I saw I saw my file. I did have... No, they were serious about that. They were very serious about that. I couldn't even... And the thing is, I don't remember them even telling me that I was like... That I needed immunity. I don't remember. I just remember them telling me I was going to get in trouble. But then when I go back on my file and I talk to my lawyer, I was like, what the fuck? I'm like, I really had immunity. Like, I really needed that. This was like a real thing. But, you know, we have to remember one thing. One of the girls, she went to jail. She got handcuffed. And she had to go to trial. She was known as a Ghislaine Maxwell. And she was 16 at the time. And it was crazy because they were like, oh, you brought girls there, you're going to... And they literally, like, they have a videotape of, you know, of her getting questioned, and they took her away. They fucking locked her up. And she turned around. She goes, wait, why am I going to jail because I brought other girls there? They're like, because you brought underage girls there. They're like, but what about the girl that brought me there? So it's like something that we have to think about. Like, it's a never... And it's like your ancestors. Like, it's like your family. It never ends.
You guys were all kids. Like, what the fuck does that matter? You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
No one's pointing out the fucking elephant in the room. There was a fucking old, disgusting man preying on young women. And everybody wants to point the finger at the girls. And it's like, bro, what the fuck is wrong with you guys? Like,
we also have to think about, like, that I think people don't think about. Like, right? Like, I'll give you an example. I just went to a cruise with my daughter, which is kind of funny because this guy found me. So I went to a cruise with my daughter 2 weeks ago. I'm coming back from the Bahamas and, you know, in the port, and I get red flagged with my passport. I don't know what happened, so I have to go on a different line. I went on a different line, and it was a TSA officer. It was a male. There was a family in front of me. No problem. They were all laughing. So I get up there next, and he goes, you were on a cruise? And I was like, yeah, you know, he asked me like simple questions. And he was like, did you go with your boyfriend or your husband? And I was like, no, I went with my girlfriend, her daughter, and my daughter. And he was like, good, because I was going to ask you for your number. So I laughed. I was like, huh. You know, I thought it was like a joke, like, you know. And he goes, no, I'm serious. And I was like, oh, okay. So I didn't want to give him my number. Like, I really thought it was really unprofessional of him. And also using his uniform as like a power, like a way to be in power, you know. So I gave him my number. I was going to give him the wrong number, and then I gave him the real number because I didn't know if he had a cell phone. I was going to text me right there and then. So I like walked out and I was like, man, that was fucking annoying. Like, that was like uncomfortable. Like, I fucking froze. I could have been like, no, I'm not giving you my number. So being 37, things going on with ICE, I am, you know, legally here now in this country, but, you know, I am from Brazil. That's where I'm from. I got scared. I was like, what the fuck? I was like, what if I don't give him my number, you know? So anyway, so I made a post about it on my platform, and I was like, you know, it's so disgusting how men in power still do this. They abuse their power, blah, 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 blah. I'm going on. And he finds me and he writes to me and he goes, what the hell does me asking you for your number have to do with anything? He goes, how am I abusing you? I said, I never said you were abusing me. I said, you were abusing your power. I said, if you were a police officer and you stopped me to give me a ticket, but halfway giving me my ticket, you asked me for my number, I'm most likely going to give it to you because either I feel like you're going to give me more tickets or you might not give me a ticket. I said, that's a person using their power and abusing it. And he never answered me. But I didn't think he was going to find me, though. And he did text me. And I, you know, he was very nice. I have to say this. I was like, listen, I'm sorry. I'm just not interested, you know. But I made that post and he found it. So it goes back to me saying, even at 37, you know, I know that we were underage. A lot of women freeze. They don't know how to say no. They're scared of saying no. And it doesn't have to always mean that a guy is in a uniform. They're just scared to say no. And I don't know why. I don't know why women freeze, you know?
All right. So after the feds get your phone and you tell them everything and all that, what happens after that? Were you like an important piece of evidence in their case? Where like
in 2019?
Yeah.
Well, you know, I got to be honest with you. I just found out really that I was an important part of this case really just recently. Like after I broke my silence, and even after then, when I started to get like a lot of, you know, different interviews, people were like, you know, minor victim one. And I had to ask my lawyer, I was like, why am I minor victim one? Because when I go through the files, I see other minor victim ones, but in other states or other countries. And she's like, because you were just the first girl they found in New York. They had found another girl, which I think is the girl that brought me. So, because I can't find her today. And from what I've learned is that when this happened, she said that she was not going to go on stand at all, that Jeffrey Epstein helped her a lot. I wanted to, if she is listening, I want to tell her, I'm glad he helped you. I'm glad he helped at least one of us, you know, and he helped her a lot, and she wasn't going to go through it. So I think they had found her. And, when I was giving my deposition in 2018, because it started in 2018, if I'm not mistaken, or 2019, I kept saying, like, this girl brought me, this girl brought me, this girl brought me. And the FBI was just, like, grilling me. And I'm like, this girl brought me. They were like, no. You're mixed up. You got it wrong. I'm like, no. I know it was this girl. Like, I know it was this girl. And they're like, it's not that girl. It's this other girl. And I'm like, no, it's not. No, it's not. No, it's not. So then they changed my whole narrative, because now I'm like, wow, my PTSD is so fucked up that I like thought it was this girl. So the whole time I'm telling my story, I'm really picturing this other girl, right? Then I come talk to my friends and I'm like, you know, I feel like this girl brought me, but the FBI keeps telling me this girl brought me. And they were like, no. That girl that you said brought you there. So up until today, I don't know why the FBI, and it's in my statement, it's in the 2019 report, I'm saying this other girl brought me there, and it's not her. I don't know how they were able to change my mind. It's crazy, right?
Because they're the feds.
Yep. And I think sometimes they did that because they knew Jeffrey helped out the girl that actually brought me there. And Jeffrey was probably like, nope, keep her out of it. Because I know that girl probably knew a lot more than I did. So he kept her safe. But I know who brought me there. And it just sucks that in my 2019 statement, they made me believe that this other girl, who probably never has been to Jeffrey Epstein, I can't even remember her being or going there, I now have this girl's name in this report. It's insane. So the feds are, they're crooked.
Very.
Just in a legal way, I guess we can say, right?
Yeah, just because they're the ones in power. It is what it is.
Yeah, exactly.
How long after the whole thing with you and the FBI he's in custody at that point, right?
Yeah, he was in custody,
Okay.
and we were going through all that stupid shit of me going to the Empire State Building because that's where my lawyer's office was. And I was working across the street at Rick's, so I used to leave there, and I sometimes used to get late into my shift, and then I had my boss giving me shit because I was late, and I was like, dude, you fucking know what I'm going through. Like, nobody else knows here, but I told you because I knew this would happen. Like, I would be coming in late. You know, I'm talking about 15, 20 minutes late. And let me tell you, that club is also another club. Like, you got money? I used to stay there until 6 o'clock in the morning till the last customer was out. You know, important people, you know, CEOs, celebrities, staying there and being in the private club in the private room. And literally it was just me and another manager. I worked the third floor. I was closing the third floor. I used to leave there 6 o'clock in the morning. I'm like, what the fuck, man? Like, this is not even, the club's not even supposed to be open anymore, you know? So, I worked there. I like I said, I feel like I almost sold half of my soul to that club. So I used to leave there and go across the street. And I wasn't able to even concentrate at that time. And at that time, I was already taking Xanax, but I started to really get addicted to Xanax to the point where I was like taking like 2 bars a day, and then I started popping 10 to 15 bars a day.
That's a lot.
I know. Yeah.
That's a lot.
Like green bars too.
Oh,
Yellow. Yeah.
The good shit.
The good shit. Yeah. Yeah. And I would take them. I was in so much pressure to the point where I was ready to get a divorce. And then once the FBI hit me, I went right back to my ex. So vulnerable. I was like so alone. I was like, oh my God, like I can't believe this is fucking happening to me. Right. And during that time, I just started popping so much fucking Xanax, so much Xanax. And through that whole time, I was so addicted to Xanax. I was just numbing myself. And then the Xanax doesn't do anything. And then I just started drinking and drinking and drinking just to chase that high, you know? So I really, I did that for, I don't know, I think 4 months. I think they had me were questioning me. And then I was home one day. I was in Long Island, and they called me on August 10th, which is my sister's birthday. I know it's the day before your birthday, the day after your birthday. And they called me, and they were like, my lawyer calls me. She's like, hey, listen, I have some really terrible news. And I'm like, what? Because now I'm thinking like, I'm going to jail. I'm taking the worst thing possible. And she's like, Jeffrey Epstein took his life in his jail cell. And I was like, okay. I hung up the phone. And at the time I was like it took me a while to like understand the fact that he really is dead. But then I started to get worried because now I'm talking to the FBI, and I knew this man was important. And I'm like, oh, now I'm paranoid. Now I'm paranoid that this man is still alive, and I gave too much information. So I started to really fuck with my head. It may have also been because of my addiction and all the drinking, and
For sure.
and also working from 7 o'clock at night until 6 o'clock in the morning, taking my daughter to school, still being a total functional junkie. And it really started to fuck with my head. But then I got to the point where I was like, oh, thank God he's fucking dead. Like, I don't have to go to trial. I don't have to go through all this shit, and all that. So yeah, it went about 3-4 months. I think I can't even remember how long, to be honest with you.
What'd you feel when it kicked in that you knew he was dead and you were like certain of it? Or what'd you feel?
I was I'm telling you, like, I really was popping so much Xanax that I wasn't feeling anything.
You were just numb.
I was just getting through, you know? And really what made me, I was like, I need to stop because I knew like it was just getting so bad. But you know how, I mean, I don't know if you've ever been addicted, but addiction is so bad where you think like one more day, I'll start tomorrow. But unfortunately, like Xanax, it doesn't really work like that. You can't just get up and stop one day. So I actually was planning to move out to Florida. So I had packed my whole house, everything in boxes, and put it in a truck. And one of these boxes, I had, I don't know how many pills in there. I had so many Xanax pills. Now, also, I'm getting it off the street. So I'm not even getting Xanax. I'm getting probably some fucking fentanyl, you know? So my moving date got pushed back, but all my Xanax was already in Florida. So I was like, fuck, I have no fucking Xanax. So I'm in my house and now I'm withdrawing bad. It's like 3 days in, I'm like about to get a heart attack. I would get up, I'm like, you know, now my ex-husband has no idea. My daughter has nobody knows this. Because I was so functional. I swear you would never even think that. I was closing out tabs in my job for like $50,000. And the next day I would remember exactly what the guy looked like, who he was with. So by the 5th day, you know, I can't eat. I can't go to the bathroom correctly. I can't sleep. I'm like really fucked up. I'm like, holy shit, this is really bad. Not knowing that it's very dangerous to just get off of Xanax. So 5th day in, I'm in bed with my husband, with my ex-husband and my daughter, and I just fall over to the floor and I start seizing. And I didn't know, obviously, I was seizing. And it took me really long time to come back. From what they told me, like I just wouldn't come back. Like I was awake, but I just wouldn't talk. So I finally realized that I'm getting carried to the ambulance, and I'm like, I finally wake up. I'm like, whoa, what the fuck is happening? You know, like no idea. They're like, ma'am, you had a seizure. Now I'm going to the ambulance and I'm trying to process everything, and I'm like, oh, yeah, the Xanax. Yeah, it's time to say something. So I get to the hospital and everybody, you know, is trying to figure out like, what the fuck? Why did I have a seizure? We're going to put her in MRI. You know, we have to do an MRI on her. We have to do this and that. And I turn around and I'm like, yeah, I have to be honest here. I'm highly addicted to Xanax. And when I told them how much Xanax I was taking, they were like in shock that I was still alive. And I moved out to Florida, didn't go to rehab, ended up getting clean on my own, which I would not advise anybody to do because it is the worst fucking thing ever. You do need help after you get off pills. And 18 months, I stopped smoking cigarettes. I stopped smoking weed. I stopped everything. And I've been clean ever since.
That's amazing.
I drink wine occasionally. I don't know if that counts, but I've been clean ever since. Yeah. So sometimes I'm like, damn, thank God I had that fucking seizure that I almost died, because I probably still would have been addicted to it. Yeah. You know? Yeah.
Man, what a story. Looking back, is there anything that stands out as far as like one specific moment or like one decision you made that you think to yourself, man, if I just would have done this or said that, like maybe things would have been different? Was there ever a moment when you were young and seeing Jeffrey that you wanted to say something? Was there ever a moment where...
To Jeffrey?
No, like to the cops or something. I don't know, something like to expose him. Or was there ever a moment when you were actually seeing him that you were like, what this guy's doing is wrong, I should say something?
No, I didn't. I really didn't.
You were stuck kind of like in that, oh, I'm a kid, I need to make money.
I was just thinking about I need to make money. That's it. Like there was nothing else going through my mind except that.
What's your mindset about it now versus how you were in the moment?
Oh, much different, obviously. I mean, listen, I really think I think what it comes down to, it's like, because when I read some of my comments, they're like, where's her mom? Where's her dad? And I'm like, yeah, where is my mom? Because my dad was in Brazil at that point. My stepfather was abusing me and then no longer around. Obviously, it didn't matter. But like, where the fuck was my mom? Why wasn't my mom cheering me on to go to school? My mom is the one that dropped me out of high school. Like, she took me out because at 14, you can't just sign yourself out of high school, you know? And until I spoke to her, like, up until not until today, but when I speak to her, she's like, it's your fault. You chose to go that path. I have a 12-year-old daughter. She's going to be 13. There's no way she's making her own decisions at 14, My sister lived with me because she sent my sister off to live with my stepfather in Brazil because he got deported. And I told her, I was like, don't send her. He's going to do the same thing. Oh, no, it's his daughter. He's not going to do it. He's a fucking pedophile. He's going to do it to any fucking young person. So she ended up having to go back because my sister was begging her to go back. But my mom couldn't come back because she didn't have her papers. So she had to stay in Brazil. So my sister came back and stayed with me, ended up living with me. And I took care of her. And let me tell you, I put my mom through hell because I was super rebellious because of what happened to me with my stepfather. My sister just became rebellious because she became epileptic. And when she was in ROTC, am I saying it right? ROTC. And she was doing really, really well, like A+ student. And as soon as she found out she was epileptic, it went fucking downhill from there. She was doing drugs and she was drinking. But I got to tell you, I was pregnant at the time with my daughter. And I was like fucking my sister up. And I was like, you are going to graduate high school if it's not the last thing I do. And I was going to school. I used to pick her up from the street. I used to pick her up drunk and this and that. But I made sure she finished high school and she got 2 years of college. So I feel like, okay, people choose their lives, but not at 14, 15, 16. Not. Even 18, like you still don't know, Sure. So it doesn't really work like that. I really, I don't blame Jeffrey. I don't blame my stepfather. I blame my mom. My mom is supposed to be the one who's supposed to guide me, who's supposed to protect me, who's supposed to teach me about these things, boundaries, limits. That was never taught to me. This is something that I just recently started learning. Like, this is something even with my ex-husband, I had to learn how to have boundaries, And women today, when I have my platform, I get messages all the time. Women don't have any fucking boundaries. And it's not only women, men don't have boundaries either. Men sometimes feel like, oh, well, she looks good, so I guess she can do this. No, it doesn't really work like that, So I think just the generation and society, the way the culture has become is a little fucked up sometimes,
I know you probably have no idea, but how many of you are there? How many Epstein victims?
I mean, there's only 20-something that are speaking, right? That are out in the public. They said over 200, I think, right? I can't even remember anymore. I think there's so much more than what we think. We just have to think about it. I'm one person. I brought one friend there. That friend and I brought other friends there, and all their friends brought their friends. It went on. Can you imagine? He had New Mexico. He had girls in Paris. He had girls in Russia. He had girls in Florida, and all these girls brought friends that brought other friends. I really think we're at least, I don't know, I think at least 1,000 or more. There has to be. I feel like just my group of friends and their friends and the people they brought is at least in the hundreds. I really think there's more than what we think. And, you got to understand, a lot of these girls don't want to talk, and a lot of these girls cannot talk. They're still in Russia. They're not going to talk. Trust me, when I broke my silence and we were going to say some stuff about the Russian girls, they called us right away. And it wasn't us, it was our lawyers. And they were like, don't mention anything. Don't mention anything. We don't want to be involved. They're scared to get killed.
Oh, man. It's crazy to think how deep that rabbit hole can go. And then you hear about him being a Mossad agent and all this shit. And it's like, oh, my God.
I think the worst is really... when these last files dropped, when they started talking about eating children, and it was just so intense. I think there was 8 pages, and then we also have our president in there we have so much allegations on our president. Obviously not only our president. I just think it's important for us to also look at our president. But then I also think about it, we have so many allegations on Bill Gates and all these people, and it's just it's not going anywhere. I think it's so corrupted. this country is so corrupted right now that it doesn't even matter if we drop another 3 million files, because we're not doing anything with this 3 million files. But you have the UK doing stuff, you have Norway doing things, you have everybody locking people up and bringing these people up to, criminally charged. But in America, they're not doing absolutely nothing, and they're not going to either. At this point, it's like, okay, we'll drop another 3 million files, but what the fuck are we going to do about it? Absolutely nothing from what it looks like. So what is even the point?
Because the people in power are the problem.
Yes.
And as long as they have the power.
Listen.
No, I'll take it a step. Let me rephrase that. As long as we allow them to have the power, it's not going to change.
I think that we're trying, but it's so hard.
I do think the average person is trying.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, anybody with half a brain looks at this and is not okay with it, obviously. I'm sick to my stomach. It's something I like about the fact that I went to prison. I was around men who killed child molesters, like slaughtered them.
Yeah.
I've met some of them, and some of them are my friends, so, and it's like, yeah, you call them criminals and you call them this and you call them that, but when it comes down to what's important, which is kids, they're do you realize prison inmates do more to protect kids than the actual cops. From child molesters and cops? Mm-hmm. They call them chomos in there. Yeah. They run for their lives in there. What happened to Jeff? What happened to Jeffrey Epstein? How he was killed? That happens to all of them in there. They know if you're in prison, if you're going to prison and you did something with kids, if you hurt kids or hurt women, you need to check in at the gate when you get there. The prison guards tell you to your face, don't come in here if you have these charges. If you hurt kids or hurt women or any of that stuff, go to solitary confinement. Don't come in my prison, because they will get killed. And it's crazy to think that we live in a world that the only place where any justice is done against people who hurt kids and women is prison. Like, the worst of our society, criminals, people we hate, people we call heathens and you're the devil and all, those are the only people actually doing something about people who hurt kids. Isn't that insane?
Well, I feel like the rich and the white powerful men only want kids, so I could expect for the prison to take to stand up for it. I feel like even like growing up in the streets, right? Like, I feel like even then, if you like lived in a neighborhood and you did some fucked up shit, like everybody was gonna be like, no, you need to go, you need to get the fuck out of here, or you're gonna get fucked up, So it's like it's almost like prison. It's like, we need to protect this. And this is what we need to do to be protected, So, yeah, it is fucked up, I went to the State of the Union and I was just there and I was watching President Trump speak, and, it was so divided with the Democratic on one side and the Republican on one side, and they were standing up and clapping for him. And I was just like, I can't believe this is where I'm at in life. This is like middle school. Like, I'm like, are we all listening to this man like talk and gaslight us in front of everybody? But you know what it matters is when you have money and you're rich and you have money in your pocket, that's all that fucking matters. It doesn't matter if the next person is struggling or starving or doesn't have health care. They just don't give a fuck. Just like the same way they don't give a fuck about that, this guy was a not only trafficking children, but abusing them and eating them and raping them, doing all these things. They're just like, hey, listen, it hasn't happened to my kids and it's not going to happen because I live in a world where this doesn't happen. And that's all they give a fuck about, So sometimes this is what happens. You leave it up to the people and people will do crazy things, but then they get charged for it, when they do crazy things, So,
Marina, thank you so much for being on my show. I usually this has been very eye-opening and very different from what I usually do. I've had other trafficking victims on, but this was obviously on another level. This is very different.
It's different and weird, right? I think like
strange,
right?
Feels like I'm talking to, like, you and me are like Neo and Trinity in the Matrix, and everyone else is a fucking zombie not seeing what's really going on.
Yeah,
that's what this conversation feels like. Yeah,
I agree with you, but there are some people on our side, though.
I agree.
But thank you for having me. Obviously, I'm very, honored to be here, and
of course.
I get to, tell a little bit about, how I feel and what my, opinions are on this,
Right.
and a little bit about my life. So thank
Right.
you.
So usually I wrap up asking the same few questions, but I'll change them up a little bit
Mhm.
because you're not a criminal. I usually interview criminals. What's next for you?
I have a lot of different projects right now. So I am in the middle of about to pitch a book to two different
Literary agents or whatnot?
yeah, Simon and Schuster, and then the
Nice.
other one Penguin. So we're
Cool.
I'm working with a ghostwriter, about to do my own podcast.
Oh,
So
if you need any help, feel free to reach out.
I think I'm getting help. I'm not sure. I'm kind of like,
You probably are.
yeah,
But whatever.
I'm trying.
Consider me a friend.
trying.
So if you need
I'm
me,
trying.
I'm here.
I do have to turn, and I think I'm gonna have to turn one of my bedrooms into my studio
Into a
for
studio?
now. Yeah,
Okay.
I'm thinking about my garage.
Well,
yeah.
I'm in your hood. So if you
Yeah.
need any, just
Maybe you'll
give me
come
a
on
holler.
my show.
I'd be happy to. I'd be happy to.
I would love that.
Yeah.
And then I'm close to closing out a deal with Brazil to do a docuseries.
Amazing.
One of my things that I really focus on, I know here in America we have a lot of, especially here in Florida, a lot of kidnapping, a lot of, just
trafficking,
United
all that.
States. We have, trafficking, child abuse. Women are getting abused emotionally, financially, physically. But we have a lot of women and men that advocate for that here. And there is a lot of help and resources. Now, when you get to Brazil, when you just get to South America, there's
It's non-existent.
It's
And that's where predators like Epstein go to
like
take
he did. He
advantage.
tried to buy a piece in the Amazon, right? But this is the problem with Brazil, and I think just South Americans, and I just think different.
I think culturally there's a problem there. Like it's very yeah, if you're 16 and he's 30, that's fine.
I mean, I just one of my friends. I was talking to him. He's 50 years old and he got married to an 18-year-old, and I'm like,
disgusting. Yeah.
it's not even. It's almost like what are you talking about with an 18-year-old? What could you possibly have in common? You're fucking 50. It's totally it's normalized in Brazil and South America.
South America in general, yeah.
And I think that the culture there needs to be changed. I think that the women also need to understand that this is not okay, because it starts with the women. And once the women start to understand that, hey, listen, like, we can't let that happen. And also women have no resources. Like a lot of the times, the women and the girls at home are getting trafficked. It's not only by their stepfather, but their mothers. Did you know that? In Brazil, mainly are the moms are the ones trafficking and abusing their children.
That's insane.
So I think that culture and that part of the world needs help. So I really want to bring my work over there. It's something really hard and dangerous, but that's what I hope to do.
How do you want to be remembered?
Good question. Wow, nobody has ever asked me that. I just want to be remembered as a good person. That's it. Somebody that I feel like I always want to help. I always want to listen. Even on my platform, I have people that write to me. I had somebody recently write, "Oh, she's a fake. She doesn't answer."
Bro, you probably have like 2 million people DMing you every day.
I am not 2 million, but I have so many people DMing me, and I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, but
Yeah.
and people don't understand. People are breaking down and telling me such deep stories, and I do respond sometimes when I can. But people have to understand, I'm not a licensed therapist. I can't give you advice on something that I'm not licensed on, because my way of healing is completely different than anybody else's healing, so I can't really advise people that. So I try my best to be on there, but then people want to, have like a 5-day conversation. I'm like, I get it.
It's too
Like,
much, yeah.
I wish I had the time. I really do, because I really do want to sit down and listen. But this is a problem that takes a while to heal, and you got to figure out what's really bothering you and wait in order to heal,
Do you believe in redemption?
I'm not sure if I do. I'm not sure.
What makes you uncertain?
I don't know. I just feel like that. I don't know how to explain it. I feel like that people, how can I explain this? People can learn from the mistakes, right? And then come back and do it differently. Well, I'll give you a perfect example. Or maybe it's not a perfect example. I started watching Shameless.
It's a great show.
It's a great show. It's very addicting. And, you have Frank, who is a drunk. And then at one part of the show, he's like, that's it. I'm changing. I'm not going to drink. But then he's also saying that, like, once an addict, always an addict, even when they are going from recovery, right? They can always relapse. So it's like, I kind of do believe in it, because you really can come back from something and change it. But then at the same time, I'm like, there's always that, it's like when I got clean, like I was like, I felt like a void. Like I felt like, oh, can I really do this? Like life is so boring without drugs, And then I figured out like a way from like finding out how to do things without drugs and making it fun. So I do believe it in a way, but I feel like sometimes people are weak and they can't come back from that, and then there's no redemption. Does that make sense a little bit?
It does.
In a way,
That makes sense.
Like I believe in it, but I don't. Like it's hard. It's hard for me to say.
For me, I mean, me personally, there's one point of no return, and that's Epstein.
Yeah.
Hurting kids and hurting women, I think, is the point of no return for me.
Right.
Anything before that, I think you can redeem yourself. I feel very guilty. I've said this previously on a podcast. I fear for my soul. I regret some of the choices I've made. I've hurt other people, even though I didn't mean to. I've made choices out of fear. I've made choices out of greed. But it's the conscious effort that I'm human, and that's why I made those mistakes that make me better.
But there's also karma, right? And I feel like you can always.
I pay for the bad I've done. Yeah.
I'm pretty sure. I feel like I'm going through some karma right now in my life.
Yeah.
And I know exactly from what it was, and I was like, that really fucked me up. So I believe there's karma and there's a way to pay for it. And I feel like we're here in this life and we're here to learn. And I think the most important thing is, like, if you've learned from it and you're not repeating it, I think that you can't come back from it. So
I think so too.
In a way, there is redemption, I guess. I do believe in it in a way.
In your own way, do you believe you've redeemed yourself?
I think so. I think I have, but I don't know. I never even sat there and thought about it, to be honest with you. I do believe that karma's kicking me in the ass right now, though. I'll tell you that much. So I feel like I need to get past through this kind of like episode in my life so that I can have more of a clear conscience to think about other things that I haven't thought about, if that makes sense too.
Of course.
Marina,
how can people connect with you?
My platform, Marina Lacerda for Survivors. And I feel like just my name, Marina Lacerda. You just Google me and I think it'll, my Instagram will pop up. And I hope people will follow. I mean, my Instagram right now, it's not up to the T because I am working on 3 different projects and then trying to get a 4th one in there. But I've been told I cannot do that I need to stop. So I am working on 3 projects. So I really hardly have time to keep up with my Instagram, So I really try. At least try to keep everyone updated with just the news. Everything that's going on in the world politically, or just with Epstein, I think that's also became politically. It's there. Yeah.
Thank you for being a guest on my show. This was very, very informative and very eye-opening. Appreciate you. You've gained a friend. After today, count on me. Whatever support you need.
Thank you so much.
I'd love to help. You're around the corner, so take advantage of.
Yes.
Take advantage of me, and no pun intended. If you can, and I'll support you in whatever way you need me.
Thank you again. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Of course.
Thank you.
All right, guys. That was another episode of Honor Among Thieves with your special guest, Marina Lacerda. Wait, how do you say like Brazilian? You guys say that the R is like an H, right?
No, Lacerda
like
is
like,
it's almost Italian. No, it's Lacerda.
Okay,
you said it. It's like Spanish. Lacerda.
No, but so I'm a fan of the Gracie, so it's not Rickson, it's Hickson. You guys changed the R for the H. That's how Brazilians say it.
Is it?
It's not Royce Gracie, it's Hoyce Gracie. You know?
Is it because they have a heavy accent? You got to remember, I came from Brazil when I was 8. So, people are like, are you even Brazilian? I'm like,
yes, you are. Come on.
Yes, I am. No, I am. But, I can barely write in Portuguese sometimes. And when I do stuff for Brazil, I'm like, how do you say this? I'm like, we need to stop right now.
Yeah.
So.
Gotcha. Alrighty, guys. Another episode of Honor Among Thieves. Your special guest, Marina Lacerda. Your host, Nelson Rodriguez Jr. signing out. As always, push it to the limit. The world is yours. If you are not chasing a dream, life is meaningless, guys. And we will catch you on the next one. Say goodnight to the bad guy.